Good morning, it's Mark at Top Local Lead Generation. We're here with Bernie Pawlik. Pawlik Automotive in Vancouver, Vancouver's best auto service experience. 16-time winners of Best Auto Repair in Vancouver. How you doing, Bernie?
I'm doing very well.
So we're going to talk about a Jeep Wrangler and some ball joint repairs. What was going on? What did you do on this vehicle?
Well, this vehicle was brought in for an inspection and a brake vibration, and during the inspection we also found that the ball joints, all four, upper and lower, as well as all the tie rod ends, were all worn excessively and loose. So we proceeded to replace them. That's basically what we did this service.
So our front end repair is pretty common on these vehicles?
They are, actually, and yeah, it seems like every Jeep. This is a 2008, so it's now an 8-year-old vehicle. We've seen quite a few of these vehicles recently, and they all seem to typically have ball joints. Vehicles around this vintage, they all seem to have ball joints that are worn out. Some of them, I think, a little on the premature side. We've had some that are under 100,000 kilometers, and the ball joints have excessive play, as do all the tie rod ends as well. So sometimes we don't need to necessarily always do them all at the same time. You know, it can be a pretty big bill, so it can be prioritized, but it's always best to, if you're going to do ball joints, do all the ball joints at one time, then do the tie rods at a separate time. But if anything's really, really loose, of course, it needs to be done because it's a safety issue.
So are there lots of other problems that are common to Jeeps?
Overall, they seem to be pretty good vehicles. Front end issues are common, and it seems like it's a Chrysler, it's a Dodge truck type of phenomenon. Although Jeep is kind of a separate brand, it is a Dodge truck made by Dodge. And it seems like any Dodge F-150s, F-250, sorry, I got the wrong brand there. Ram 150, 250s, and 350s. The tie rod ends and ball joints all tend to wear in those at a pretty high rate. So typically, if you have under 100,000 kilometers, like close to 100,000 Ks, you probably have worn out ball joints and tie rod ends if you have a Dodge truck as well. So it's pretty common. I mean, other issues on Jeeps, they seem to be pretty reliable overall. The engines are good. You don't find a huge amount of, a lot of fluid leak problems. So they're pretty good. They don't need tune-ups very often like any modern car. They seem to run pretty well. So front ends are kind of like the biggest thing.
So I know I'm throwing you a curve here. We've talked about the diesel, Mercedes 3-liter diesel, and I know that Jeep uses that motor in some of the older vehicles. Any problems with those?
Well, I know we've talked about these 3 liters quite a lot, and it's funny, I kind of, for some reason, when you were talking Jeeps, I guess I'm thinking about the more Wrangler style of Jeep and forgetting about the Liberty and the, which has its own diesel and issues, as well as the Grand Cherokee with its diesel. And I mean, like, as far as the Grand Cherokee, I mean, it's kind of the same as any other Mercedes. We have posts on that. I won't get into that right now, but there's definitely issues with those, as well as the Liberties are, well, there's a whole book that could be written about those too. But I mean, other than I'm talking about more the gasoline powered, the more traditional type of Jeep. This one, I've got a couple photos to share actually, which I almost forgot about here. But let's get into a little photo show. Let's get the screen share up and going. There we go. So there's our, this is a sample of the ball joint. The top item is the ball joint that we removed from this vehicle. That's one of 4. There's upper and lower ball joints. And then on the bottom of the picture is one of the tie rod ends. Again, there's 4 tie rod ends that tend to wear as well. That rubber sort of piece that's got a crack in it, that's the rubber dust boot. And that was actually broken in the removal process. But if those are ever broken on the car, while it's in the vehicle, those will shorten the life of the joint because water and dirt can get in and wreck the joint. But it, in and of itself, doesn't necessarily mean the joint's bad. But this is a sort of view of what the pieces that we replaced. There's our Jeep Wrangler. So this is sort of why I wasn't talking about the diesels and the motors, because I sort of had more on my mind of the Wranglers. We've had a few of these recently and done services. So my brain's been a little more on the gasoline-powered models.
So those pieces are basically part of the structure that holds the wheel onto the car.
Yeah, the ball joint basically attaches the steering knuckle, which is the piece that moves when you turn the wheel in your car. There's The ball joint allows the actual wheel on the road to pivot back and forth. So there's uppers and lowers on this type of suspension. So, I mean, if they break, then your wheel will basically flop sideways or back and forward. It's a very serious condition that, you know, we get the odd car. It's very odd, very rare, and thank God, because it's a harsh thing if it ever breaks while you're driving. The tie rod end, that's a longer pieces on the bottom of the picture. Those link the steering together. So on this vehicle, when you turn your steering wheel, it goes down to a steering box, which is basically a gearbox that attaches to the steering linkage. And those tie rod ends all attach to the linkage. So if any of those break, or if they're excessively loose like they were in this Jeep, you get a lot of wander. So you turn the steering wheel and it doesn't respond as well as it should. So that's why, that's what's critical about replacing these parts. Now, when they get too loose and worn, and you know, then they can actually break and pop apart, and your wheel will point. You know, one of your wheels you'll be in control of, and the other one you won't. But there's actually one joint that can break. Actually, on this Jeep, there's two of them that could break, where you completely lose control of your steering. So you never want that to happen. You don't want to ever get even close to that kind of place. But every once in a while, I've seen a car on the road where you see a broken tie rod end, and the one wheel's pointing to the left, the other's pointing to the right. Can't be a nice scenario when you're driving that car.
No. So and a lot of play is it's not a feature like it was in the 50s.
No. It's funny, we have a 58 Impala in our shop we're doing some work on, and it's interesting to drive a car that old because, and this one's actually quite nice shape, but I mean, one of the first things I notice is the steering is it's all over the road, and this vehicle is actually in pretty good shape too, so it's just kind of the way it was back then. But yeah, on a modern car, it's not a feature.
So Jeeps are pretty popular, and a lot of people like them. What do you think about them?
I think they're pretty good, but they certainly have their quirks. And when I think about it, I think there's a lot of people who like Jeeps because of the functionality. This Wrangler Unlimited is kind of a neat vehicle because it gives you that. It's a four-door vehicle with nice, comfortable, a lot more comfortable seats, but it gives you that sort of ride of a traditional old Jeep in the look. So I think it was a smart idea. They're quite popular, and we work on a lot of them. I think more stuff tends to go wrong with Jeeps than your average vehicle. They're kind of like I want to call them the British sports car of American cars because they're not that bad. But there's a lot that goes on with them. But people seem to like them, and so they're willing to do whatever it takes to keep the car going. But overall, I like if that's the kind of vehicle you like, I mean they're awesome. And people don't use them off road as much as they could because they're pretty decent off road.
Yeah. So if you're looking for service for your Jeep to make sure that it's steering properly, or if you've got any looseness or play in there that you need checked, and you're in Vancouver, give Bernie Pawlik at Pawlik Automotive a call, 604-327-7112. They're busy, you got to book ahead, or check out their website, pawlikautomotive.com. We've got years and years of these broadcasts on there, tons of information. Check it out. Thanks, Bernie.
You're welcome. Thanks, Mark.